60 tons. Not moving. Not rolling. Not floating. 60 tons of iron, steam, cable, and stubborn intent, chained to a forest that didn't care how badly America needed lumber. Picture the moment it becomes obvious horses aren't enough anymore. Not gradually, not politely. It happens all at once. A team strains forward, leather creaking, breath turning to ice in the air. Hooves dig down, find nothing solid, and spin. One horse goes down, then another. The sled jerks sideways, a log rolls, and suddenly you've got 1,000 pounds of animal screaming under 10,000 pounds of timber. Men shout. Someone reaches for a knife. Someone else turns away because they already know how this ends. This is the moment the forest wins. And it's the moment the machines arrive. The iron beast didn't come to make logging easier. It came because the old way had reached its breaking point. The terrain was too steep, the snow too deep, the mud too thick, the logs too big. Horses were dying faster than they could be replaced, and men were running out of ways to pretend brute muscle could still compete with gravity and scale. America wanted timber ripped out of places nature never intended it to leave, and it wanted it now. So engineers did what they always do when the math stops working in favor of flesh. They replaced muscle with pressure. They replaced hooves with steel. They replaced mercy with torque. By the time this machine shows up at the edge of a frozen landing, the crew already knows it's different. Not because it's elegant, it is. It's ugly in a way only industrial machines can be, all rivets and plates and exposed mechanisms, no sheet metal, no panels to hide what it's doing. You can see the forces at work. You can hear them breathing. 60 tons empty, more when it's working. This isn't a tractor in the modern sense. It's closer to a mobile winch house married to a locomotive and dragged into the woods by necessity. A boiler squats at its center, vertical and thick-skinned, riveted plates overlapping like armor. Steam lines snake outward to cylinders big enough to crawl into. Gears sit exposed, teeth blackened by oil and soot. Cable drums dominate the rear, wrapped in steel rope thick as a man's wrist, sometimes thicker. And that cable is the point. This beast doesn't politely tow logs down groomed roads. It reaches out into chaos, half a mile sometimes, through slash, stumps, ravines, snowdrifts that swallow men to the waist. It wraps itself around timber that weighs more than a house and drags it back whether the forest agrees or not. The day starts before daylight because steam doesn't care what time it is. The fireman is already awake, feeding the boiler in the dark, shovel after shovel coaxing pressure out of cold steel. Wood, coal, whatever they've got. The gauge creeps upward slowly, reluctantly, like it resents being forced to do this again. Condensation hisses from valves. Metal ticks as it warms and expands. Every sound means something. Every sound is watched. This machine doesn't forgive inattention. At full pressure, the boiler holds enough stored energy to level a building. It's a bomb with a purpose, and everyone on the crew knows it. Water level too low and the crown sheet overheats. Too high and water slams into the cylinders and tears them apart. The fireman lives by the sight glass and the gauge, because if either one lies to him, everyone nearby pays the price. When the operator finally takes his place, there's no cab in the modern sense. No enclosure, no insulation. He stands or sits exposed, one hand on a throttle lever polished smooth by years of use, the other near brake controls that fight constantly to keep 60 tons of machinery from doing whatever physics tells it to do next. He can't see the logs. He can't see the chokers. He can't see the men in the woods. He works by signal and instinct. A whistle cuts through the trees. One sharp blast. Stop. 2 blasts. Ease up. 3. Pull hard. The sound echoes, bounces, comes back distorted, but it's all there is. There are no radios, no second chances. When the drum starts to turn, the cable tightens invisibly in the forest, and everyone not moving fast enough is already too late. This is where horses failed. A horse pulls what's in front of it. This machine pulls whatever it's attached to, regardless of terrain, slope, or common sense. Logs don't slide gently. They plow, they bounce. They dig in and hang up on stumps older than the country. When that happens, the cable sings. You can hear tension before you see it. A high metallic scream that raises the hair on your neck. The operator feels it through the controls, a vibration that tells him exactly how close he is to snapping steel. Snap a cable under load and it doesn't fall. It whips, fast enough to cut a man in half before his brain processes the sound. So the operator feathers the throttle, easing steam into the cylinders, letting pressure build just enough to overcome resistance without crossing the invisible line where iron gives up. This isn't finesse in the artistic sense. It's mechanical empathy. He knows the machine the way a sailor knows a ship, not because it's gentle, but because it will kill him if he misunderstands it. Out in the woods, choker setters move like hunted animals. They run cables around logs slick with ice and sap, fingers numb, boots slipping on frozen ground churned into a maze of hazards. They work fast because every second the cable lies slack is a second closer to it snapping tight without warning. They set the choker, signal, and clear out, diving behind trees or stumps they hope are big enough to stop flying steel if something goes wrong. Sometimes it doesn't. Logs roll, cables jump grooves, anchors pull loose. When 60 tons of machine commits to a pull, it doesn't stop politely. Stumps tear out of the ground. Soil explodes upward. A log can pivot unexpectedly and sweep an entire area clean like a wrecking ball. Men learn to read the ground the way sailors read waves because guessing wrong means you don't get another guess. By mid-morning, the landing is alive with motion. Logs arrive in jerks and surges, dragged from places no wagon road could ever reach. Horses couldn't do this. Horses broke. Horses drowned in mud. Horses froze standing still too long. This machine doesn't care. As long as there's steam, it keeps pulling. And that's the other truth no one likes to say out loud. When a horse fails, it suffers. When this beast fails, it explodes. The boiler is watched constantly. Pressure climbs with every successful pull, the fire roaring harder as the fireman tries to keep ahead of demand. Sweat freezes on his back. Coal dust cakes his face. He eats standing up if he eats at all. If he slows down, the pressure drops. If pressure drops at the wrong moment, the machine stalls under load, and restarting it becomes a nightmare of frozen valves, slipping brakes, and men working inches from taut cable under unpredictable tension. By noon, the machine has already hauled more timber than a full horse team could manage in days. The math is brutal and undeniable. This is why it exists. This is why it spreads through logging camps despite the cost, despite the danger, despite the fact that when it kills, it does so without apology. The forest doesn't give up easily. Terrain steepens. Snow deepens. Logs get bigger as the day goes on because the easy ones are already gone. The operator adjusts constantly, listening, feeling, reading the machine's moods. He knows when to push and when to back off. He knows when the cable is about to part, when the boiler is running hot, when the brakes are starting to glaze and lose bite. By late afternoon, light fades and the forest grows deceptive. Shadows hide hazards. Signals come slower. Everyone's tired. That's when mistakes happen. That's when this iron beast earns its reputation. Because it never gets tired. And it never forgets how much force it can make. By the time steam is finally bled off and the fire choked down, the landing is stacked high with timber that had no business leaving where it grew. The forest is quieter now, but not defeated. It will take payment later, in broken machines and broken men. And tomorrow, if the boiler holds, the beast will wake up and do it again. By the second week, the machine stops feeling new. That's when it gets dangerous. The crew doesn't talk about it directly, but everyone feels the shift. The iron beast has proven itself. It hauls where horses died. It drags timber up grades that make men dizzy just looking at them. It works in snow so deep the tops of stumps vanish. And once something works, men start trusting it. Trust is what kills you. The forest hasn't changed, the terrain hasn't softened, the logs haven't gotten lighter, but familiarity creeps in. Movements get faster, signals get shorter. The choker setters start cutting corners, stepping closer to the line before it goes tight, trusting their instincts instead of their fear. The operator pulls a little harder, a little longer, because yesterday it held. Yesterday doesn't matter. The terrain they're working now would have stopped any horse outfit cold. A long slope falling away into a ravine choked with deadfall, snow hiding everything from ankle breakers to stump holes deep enough to swallow a man. The logs down there are giants of old-growth timber that never fell naturally because nothing short of time itself could kill them. Each one weighs tens of tons, soaked with frozen sap, edges squared by axes days earlier. The cable snakes downhill, disappearing into shadow. The drum takes up slack slowly. The whistle signal comes back faint, delayed by distance and trees. 3 short blasts. Pull. The operator opens the throttle just enough. Steam surges into the cylinders. Pistons drive, gears bite. The drum turns. Nothing happens at first. Then the cable tightens. You can feel it before you see it. The machine leans into the pull, steel frame creaking, anchor cables biting deeper into frozen ground. The boiler pressure dips, then recovers as the fireman throws more fuel into the box. The cable hums, low and angry. Somewhere downslope, a log shifts. It doesn't slide. It rotates slowly at first, breaking free of ice and soil that's held it for a century. When it finally moves, it moves sideways, not toward the landing. The cable angle changes. Tension spikes. The operator feels it immediately. This is the moment that separates experience from disaster. He can pull harder and hope the log straightens itself, or he can back off and send men back into the ravine to re-rig it. Backing off means losing momentum, losing pressure, risking a stall halfway through the pull. Sending men in means working under load, stepping into a space where every snapped fiber is aimed at their bodies. He eases off. Steam hisses as he bleeds pressure. The drum slows. The cable slackens just enough to stop screaming. In the woods, men move again, cautiously, boots sinking into powder that hides ice underneath. They reset the choker, reposition the log using peavies and leverage, muscles straining, breath ragged. They clear out. The signal comes back. Pull. This time the log comes straight. It plows uphill, ripping through snow and brush, smashing saplings flat, snapping dead limbs like gunshots. The machine digs in and wins inch by inch until the timber bursts out of the trees and skids onto the landing in a spray of ice and bark. No one cheers. There's no celebration. That's not how this work goes. They just reset and do it again. Hour after hour. By mid-afternoon, the machine has hauled loads so heavy the ground itself has started to give up. The landing is a churned mess of frozen ruts and crushed bark. Anchor stumps groan under strain, cables sawing into wood as tension shifts. The iron beast is leaving scars that will last decades, maybe longer. So is the forest. It answers back quietly at first. A snapped cleat on the track, a brake band glazing over and losing bite, a steam leak hissing from a valve seat that no longer seals like it should. None of these stop the work. They never do. They just pile up, small warnings ignored because stopping costs money and daylight. The real punishment comes without warning. It happens on a pull that looks ordinary, medium log, clean line, good footing. The operator opens the throttle with confidence. The drum spins up smoothly. Then the cable parts. It doesn't snap straight across. One strand goes first, then another, then the rest unzip in a fraction of a second. The released energy turns the cable into a steel whip. It lashes back toward the landing faster than a man can react, tearing through brush, slicing saplings clean off at chest height. A man near the edge of the landing hears it and turns just in time to lose half his shoulder. The cable hits him, not hard enough to kill him outright, but hard enough to drop him screaming in the snow, blood already darkening the white around him. The operator slams the throttle shut. Steam vents violently. The fireman backs away from the boiler instinctively, heart hammering. Everything stops. For a moment, there's only sound of steam and the injured man's voice. They carry him out on a door pulled from a bunkhouse because that's what passes for a stretcher. There's no doctor within miles. They do what they can, pack snow against the wound to slow the bleeding, tie it tight, and hope. Whether he lives or dies isn't discussed. It's not cruel, it's practical. The machine didn't cause this. The work did. By dusk, they're running again. This is where the Iron Beast shows its other side. It doesn't care that a man is hurt. It doesn't care that a cable failed. If anything, it demands attention now, as if offended by the interruption. The replacement cable is dragged into place, spooled carefully, inspected by lamplight. Hands move slower. Eyes work harder. The night pulls in around them. Snow starts again, soft and thick, swallowing sound. Steam hangs low, lit from beneath by firebox glow, turning the landing into something unreal. Men moving through clouds, silhouettes against flickering orange light, iron shapes looming and breathing. They work until exhaustion forces them to stop. And then they work a little longer. Because this machine isn't here to make life better. It's here to make production possible. It exists because failure is unacceptable. Timber must move. Mills must feed. Cities don't care how many men it costs to keep building upward. When they finally shut it down for the night, bleeding off pressure and banking the fire, the forest closes in again. Silence returns, broken only by cooling metal ticking and distant wind through treetops. Men limp to the bunkhouse. Hands shake as they eat. No one talks much. Everyone knows tomorrow will be worse terrain, bigger timber, colder weather. And the Iron Beast will be waiting. Because now the crew understands something important. This machine didn't replace horses. It replaced limits. And limits were the only thing keeping this work from turning truly deadly. By the third week, the machine stops feeling like equipment and starts feeling like infrastructure. That's the moment everything changes. The Iron Beast is no longer just hauling logs. It's reorganizing the entire operation around itself. Camp schedules bend to its needs. Crews are reassigned to feed it, anchor it, move it, protect it. Where the machine can reach becomes productive forest. Where it can't reach might as well not exist. This is how scale sneaks up on you. The logs get bigger because now they can. Timber that would have been left standing before, too heavy, too awkward, too far downhill, suddenly becomes fair game. The choker setters curse when they see what's been marked next. Trees so wide 2 men can't get their arms around them. Butts buried in frozen ground. Crowns tangled with half the hillside. The Iron Beast doesn't care. The rigging grows more complex. More blocks. More redirects. Lines strung through standing timber to change angles and cheat gravity. Each added pulley multiplies pulling power and danger in equal measure. Every connection is another point of failure. Every anchor stump is trusted with forces it was never meant to hold. They're not just hauling anymore. They're engineering on the fly. The operator spends more time watching the boiler than the woods now. Pressure climbs faster under heavier loads. The fireman shovels like a man possessed, sweat freezing into his beard, eyes locked on the sight glass. Water in, fuel in, again, again, again. If either of them slips, the consequences are immediate and final. The beast is at full appetite now. A pull starts slow, deliberate. The drum turns, cable tightening in stages. The machine squats slightly as the load comes on, anchor lines snapping taut with a crack that sounds like gunfire. Steam hammers through the cylinders. Gears scream under torque. Logs begin to move, not smoothly, but in violent jerks that send shock loads back through the system. That's what breaks things. Metal fatigue doesn't announce itself. It waits. It accumulates. A pin starts to oval. A rivet loosens. A brake band thins just enough to slip under load. The machine absorbs these insults silently until one day it doesn't. Midday, halfway through a pull that should have been routine, the brake fails. It's subtle at first. The operator feels the lever go soft, travel farther than it should. He compensates instinctively, feathering steam, trying to hold tension steady. But the load is heavy, downhill, and gravity doesn't negotiate. The drum starts to overrun. Cable screams off faster than intended. The operator hauls back, fighting inertia with muscle that has no chance against 60 tons in motion. Sparks fly as metal scrapes metal. The fireman looks up just in time to see the machine begin to creep forward, anchors straining. If the anchors pull loose, the beast follows the load downhill. That's how entire crews die. Steam is dumped in a violent hiss. The operator throws everything he has at the controls. The brake bites just enough to slow the drum, enough for the cable to lose momentum before catastrophe takes over. The machine stops with a jolt that rattles teeth and shakes snow from trees. No one speaks for a long moment. They inspect the brake band by hand, fingers numb, lantern light catching polished spots where it slipped. They know what it means. They've pushed the machine to the edge of what it can do with the parts it has. Repairs will be needed. Real repairs, not field fixes. But stopping isn't an option yet. They adjust, they compensate, they work around it. That's when the forest really starts to collect its payment. A choker-sitting crew working downslope moves in too early. The signal was late, or misunderstood, or ignored because everyone's tired and wants the pull over with. The cable comes tight while a man is still clearing brush. He turns, slips, and the log jumps. It doesn't crush him. It pins him. His leg disappears under tens of tons of timber pressed against frozen ground. There's no dramatic moment, no instant death, just a man screaming in a way that makes everyone else freeze. The operator dumps steam immediately. The machine halts. But the log doesn't move. There's no lifting it, no prying it free. The only option is to cut, axes swing, saw teeth bite. The log bleeds sap slowly as men work with shaking hands, racing shock and cold. They free him eventually, but the damage is done. Bones shattered, flesh pulped. He'll live, maybe. He won't work again. By now, the machine has hauled so much timber that the operation has outgrown its original landing. They extend it, level ground with hand tools, build cribbing, move anchors. The beast is repositioned using its own power, dragging itself forward inch by inch with cable systems that turn the forest into a temporary mechanical maze. Watching it move without hauling is unsettling. 60 tons of iron creeping through trees, cables snapping taut and releasing, leaving trenches in frozen soil. It looks wrong, like something that shouldn't be able to do this. Men start talking about it differently, less like a tool, more like a force. They say it's hungry, that it knows when it's being pushed too hard, that it gets angry when starved of steam or overloaded. No one laughs because no one wants to tempt it. By the end of the month, the camp has produced more timber than anyone thought possible from this ground. Management is pleased. Schedules tighten. Expectations rise. The machine has proven it can deliver, so now it must. That's always how it goes. The Iron Beast has erased the old limits, but it hasn't erased physics. It's just moved the breaking point farther away, into places where the consequences are worse when something finally gives. And something always gives. Because the forest doesn't lose. It waits. By the time the failure comes, everyone can feel it. Not because there's a single dramatic moment, but because the machine's rhythm is off. Steam pressure doesn't recover the way it used to. The drum hesitates before responding. The brakes grab unevenly. Nothing catastrophic, nothing obvious, just enough wrong that the men closest to it stop trusting their instincts and start second-guessing everything. That's when machines like this become truly dangerous. The forest they're working now is the worst of it. Steep side hill, narrow benches cut by hand just wide enough to stand on. Snow hides the drop-offs. Logs have to be yarded uphill at angles that fight both gravity and geometry. Every pull feels wrong, like the machine is being asked to do something it was never meant to do, and maybe it is. They re-anchor higher than usual, wrapping cable around a stump that's been dead longer than anyone can guess. It looks solid, frozen, immovable. No one bothers to dig down and check the roots. There's no time. There's never time. The pull starts slow. The iron beast settles into it, boiler thumping, exhaust barking in short, sharp breaths. Steam lines vibrate. The drum takes up slack, cable straightening until it looks like a drawn line against the snow. The log moves. At first it's perfect, clean line, no hang-ups. Men relax just a fraction, which is all it takes. The log clears a stump, swings slightly, and the angle changes. The load shifts sideways. Tension spikes. The anchor stump groans. It's a sound no one forgets. Wood under stress doesn't crack right away. It complains. Fibers stretch. Roots creak underground. The machine pulls anyway because it doesn't know what that sound means. The stump explodes out of the ground. Not slowly. Not dramatically. It comes free all at once, a mass of roots and frozen soil ripped loose by force it was never meant to resist. The anchor cable snaps tight in a new direction, whipping sideways with explosive speed. One man never sees it. The cable hits him across the chest and shoulder, throwing him backward like he's weightless. He lands hard and doesn't move. The cable slams into a tree behind him, cutting bark and wood clean away, then drops slack into the snow like nothing happened. The operator dumps steam instantly. The fireman backs away from the boiler without being told. Everyone else stands frozen, eyes locked on the man on the ground. He's alive, barely. They carry him out the same way they always do. Improvised stretcher, silent walk, no shouting, no panic. They've learned that panic doesn't help. What does help is distance. Because now the machine is unstable. Without a solid anchor, any pull risks sending 60 tons of iron sliding downhill under its own weight. They spend the rest of the day rebuilding the system. New anchors, new lines, redundant backups. It takes hours. Hands freeze. Light fades. Snow keeps falling. The machine waits. When they start again, it's already late. Fatigue hangs over everything. Movement slow. Signals lag. The operator's hands ache from fighting controls that don't want to behave. That's when the boiler acts up. It's subtle at first. Pressure climbs faster than expected. The relief valve flutters, then closes. The fireman checks the sight glass again. Water's there. He feeds the fire less, but momentum carries the system forward anyway. Steam doesn't care about caution. It builds when it builds. The relief valve screams. It's a sound that cuts through everything. High, piercing, urgent. Every man knows what it means. Pressure is too high and the boiler is trying to save itself. The operator reacts instantly. Steam dumped. Throttle shut. Fireman kills the fire as fast as he can, choking it with ash and pulling fuel back out with a shovel. They move with practiced urgency, not panic. The screaming stops. For a moment, it looks like they've dodged it. Then a seam lets go. It's not a full explosion. Not the kind that turns steel into shrapnel and men into memory. It's worse in some ways. A violent rupture that vents superheated steam sideways in a blinding white jet. Anyone standing near it doesn't get burned, they get cooked. The fireman is closest. He doesn't scream. The steam hits him like a wall, stripping heat from his body even as it destroys skin and lungs. When it clears, he's on the ground, gasping in a way that tells everyone watching he won't last long. They shut everything down completely now. No discussion, no debate. The machine is wounded, and wounded machines are unpredictable. Night falls while they deal with the aftermath. The fireman dies before morning. The machine sits silent in the snow, blackened streaks of condensation freezing along its side. Men avoid looking at it directly, the way you avoid eye contact with something that's just proven it can kill without effort. Repairs take days. Real repairs this time, plates replaced, rivets driven, valves reseated, brake bands relined, cable inspected inch by inch. They cannibalize parts from another machine brought in just for this purpose. The cost is enormous, the delay worse. But when the beast comes back online, it comes back unchanged in spirit. Same boiler, same drums, same appetite. The men are different now. They move slower, talk less, give the machine more space. They've seen what happens when you forget what it is. They've learned that progress doesn't arrive gently. It arrives heavy, loud, and indifferent. By the time they restart hauling, winter is starting to loosen its grip. Snow softens during the day and refreezes at night. Conditions grow unstable. The window is closing. They push anyway, because that's what this machine exists to enable. And because stopping has never been how America built anything worth remembering.